When you think about superheroes, you probably picture, thrilling fights and good versus evil. But the comic Miracleman, that is something else entirely. It's less of a superhero story and more like a philosophical autopsy of one. So what we're going to do is break down this deconstruction into 3 stages. First, how it absolutely kills the classic hero. Second, how it rebuilds him on a terrifying new blueprint. And finally, we'll get to the chilling question it asks about what perfection really costs. And honestly, that quote just nails it. This isn't just about giving an old character a fresh coat of paint. The writer, Alan Moore, basically puts the entire superhero fantasy on an operating table and just dissects it, piece by painful piece. And in doing so, he exposes this nightmare that's been hiding just underneath the dream all along. And this is the central, horrifying question that drives the whole thing. This isn't a power fantasy, not at all. It's a serious exploration of what happens when a person genuinely leaves humanity behind. What is the real cost of that kind of transformation? That question is the very heart of our autopsy. Okay, so, to build his modern god, Moore first had to completely demolish the old one. This first stage isn't about creating anything. It's all about systematic destruction. I mean, tearing down that simple, nostalgic idea of a hero to make room for something way more complex and, frankly, unsettling. What's so clever is that Moore's deconstruction doesn't start with some big explosion. It starts with nostalgia. He opens the story with an actual 1950s comic sequence, featuring the original, totally innocent hero. He lets you get comfortable with this charming, simple myth, this dream, that he is about to systematically shatter. And this slide just lays out the brutal reveal. The myth? Well, that's the classic tale of a boy given amazing powers by some mystical scientist. But the reality? Oh, the reality is a complete and total lie. His origin was actually a secret government experiment. And all those heroic adventures he remembers, they were fabricated memories, just simulations fed directly into his brain while he was kept unconscious. And that famous magic word, Kimoda? Yeah, not magic, not even a little. It was a cold, clinical keyword, a post-hypnotic trigger designed to activate a biological weapon. Moore essentially weaponized the comic book retcon. Usually writers use retcons to kind of clean up messy story details from the past, but here, he uses it to perform what's been called a death of God right there on the page, killing off the innocent myth to reveal this cold, scientific, and deeply traumatic truth that was hiding underneath it all. So, with the old god dead and that simple myth completely shattered, Moore needed a new blueprint to build a modern god, a much more complex one, and he found it, believe it or not, in 19th century philosophy. The philosophical foundation for this whole story is Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, or the overman. The basic idea is that humanity isn't the final product. We're just a bridge to something greater, something beyond our current limitations. And Miracleman is the story of what happens when someone actually crosses that bridge. Now, Moore doesn't just hint at this philosophy, he makes it completely explicit. The secret government program that created Miracleman was named Project Zarathustra, and that name is basically the Rosetta Stone for the whole story. It's a direct link to Nietzsche's most famous book, and it reveals that the scientists weren't just trying to build a super soldier, they were trying to engineer a god. But the project didn't create one perfect god, the ideal fractured. Moore even uses a quote from Nietzsche to foreshadow this split. The creative power is the lightning, and the destructive power is the madness. Miracleman, he embodies the lightning. He's this constructive force trying to build a better world. But his old sidekick, Kid Miracleman, becomes the madness, pure nihilistic destruction. He's the absolute worst-case scenario, a literal god with the mind of a bitter, resentful child. Miracleman's whole journey perfectly follows Nietzsche's playbook for creating the Overman. It happens in 3 clear steps. First, he confronts and abandons his flawed human creators. Second, he sheds his own humanity. I mean, he literally declares his human alter ego, Michael Moran, to be dead. And finally, he takes that last huge step, creating entirely new values by reshaping the entire planet in his own image. And that brings us to the final, haunting stage of this whole autopsy. The new god has done it. He's achieved his ultimate goal. He has built a perfect world for all of humanity. But the story's final question reveals the terrifying price of that perfection. On the surface, it is a paradise. On the ruins of London, which was destroyed in his final battle, Miracleman and his allies build a new Olympus. They get rid of war, money, and disease. They end injustice. They restructure the entire global economy. Literally every single problem humanity has ever struggled with is just solved, almost overnight. But this is where the story delivers its final, brutal critique. The superhero dream actually came true. But it's not a dream. It's a cage. A beautiful, perfect, gilded cage. See, the thing is, humanity had no say in this new world. It was a gift that was forced upon us by a benevolent but absolute dictator. He saved us all, for sure, but the price was our freedom and our agency. He solved all our problems, but in doing so, he kind of took away our purpose. And this brings us right back to Nietzsche. He believed that human meaning doesn't come from comfort or perfection. It comes from the struggle, from the painful but beautiful process of overcoming challenges. By handing humanity a perfect world on a silver platter, Miracleman has, without meaning to, stripped us of the very thing that gives our lives purpose. So after tearing down the entire superhero myth, this is the terrifying question the story leaves us with. We all dream of a perfect world, right? A utopia where all our problems are solved. But what part of our own humanity is lost when that fight is finally truly over? Is a perfect world a dream come true? Or is it the end of what it means to be human?